For nearly 6,000 years, the galaxy feared only one name, the Vor'Kaal. Entire civilizations surrendered at the mere rumor of their arrival. Trade routes changed course to avoid their territory. Military fleets refused to engage them. Even the Galactic Council spoke carefully whenever the VorKaal were mentioned, because the VorKaal weren't merely powerful. They were predators, in every sense of the word, and they believed the galaxy belonged to them. Nobody knew exactly where the VorKaal came from. Their homeworld remained a mystery. Their history was incomplete. Their numbers were unknown, but everyone knew what happened when they appeared. Worlds disappeared. Colonies vanished. Ships stopped transmitting. Entire species learned the difference between being citizens of the galaxy and being prey within it. The VorKaal considered all other life forms inferior. Potential resources, potential servants, potential food, occasionally all three. And for thousands of years, nobody successfully challenged them. The reason was simple. The VorKaal were terrifying, standing nearly 4 meters tall. They combined strength, speed, intelligence, and brutality into a single species. Natural armor covered their bodies. Their senses surpassed most military scanners. Their reflexes seemed impossible. A fully armed VorKaal warrior could defeat entire squads of conventional soldiers. Many had. Repeatedly, military analysts eventually stopped calculating victory scenarios. The numbers never worked. The VorKaal enjoyed this reputation. In fact, they cultivated it. Every conquest became a public spectacle. Every defeated enemy became a warning. Every victory reinforced the same message. Resistance was pointless. Submission was survival. The galaxy listened, because the alternative usually involved extinction. Then humanity arrived, and nobody paid much attention. The first official contact occurred near the edge of Council space. A small human exploration vessel entered a monitored system. Council observers immediately classified humanity as harmless. The species was physically average, technologically competent but unremarkable, militarily insignificant, politically irrelevant. Another young civilization joining a crowded galaxy. Nothing more. Several reports literally describe humanity as unlikely to influence major galactic affairs. Years later, those reports became famous for all the wrong reasons. Unlike most new species, humans adapted quickly, very quickly. Within 20 years, human trade networks expanded dramatically. Within 30, human engineering firms appeared everywhere. Within 40, human technology quietly improved sectors that had stagnated for centuries. Humans solved problems. Lots of problems. Problems other species considered normal. Problems nobody bothered fixing. Humans looked at those same issues and immediately started building solutions. The galaxy appreciated the results. The VorKaal did not. Predators dislike change, especially when that change empowers prey. And from the VorKaal perspective, every other species was prey, including humanity. Perhaps especially humanity. Because humans committed a strange offense, they weren't afraid. Most species reacted nervously when dealing with the VorKaal. Humans didn't. They remained polite, professional, reasonable, but not afraid. The distinction irritated the predators enormously. Fear was expected. Fear was natural. Fear was proper. Humans stubbornly refused to cooperate. The first direct encounter occurred during a trade dispute. A VorKaal warlord demanded tribute from a human cargo convoy. The demand followed standard procedure. Other species always complied. The convoy captain listened carefully, then politely declined. The VorKaal assumed there had been a translation error. There hadn't. The human repeated himself. No, just one word. Simple. Respectful. Absolute. The incident spread rapidly, mostly because nobody could remember the last time anyone told the VorKaal no. Observers expected immediate retaliation. Instead, something unexpected happened. The warlord hesitated. Only briefly, but long enough for everyone to notice. Because the human captain didn't look frightened. He looked annoyed, as though the conversation was wasting valuable time. The VorKaal eventually allowed the convoy to leave. Nobody understood why. Not even the VorKaal. Months later, another incident occurred. Then another. Then another. Human colonies resisted intimidation. Human merchants ignored threats. Then another. Human colonies resisted intimidation. Human merchants ignored threats. Human diplomats challenged demands. Human explorers entered regions everyone else avoided. Each event seemed insignificant individually. Together they formed a pattern. Humanity wasn't behaving like prey. The VorKaal leadership finally took notice. Supreme Predator Kartok personally reviewed reports concerning humanity. The ancient ruler had overseen centuries of expansion. Entire species trembled when his name appeared on communications. After reading the latest human files, Kartok laughed. Long, hard, loudly, because the explanation seemed obvious. Humans were ignorant. Nothing more. They simply didn't understand who the VorKaal were. Once educated, they would behave properly. Every species eventually did. Kartok decided to teach them. The lesson began on the colony world of New Horizon, a prosperous human settlement located near disputed territory. Officially, the VorKaal claimed ownership. Humanity disagreed. The disagreement ended when a VorKaal fleet entered orbit. Thousands of civilians watched from below. News networks broadcast events live. The galaxy held its breath. Everyone expected surrender. Everyone expected compromise. Everyone expected fear. Instead, the planetary governor sent a message. One message. One sentence. The transmission reached every ship in orbit. Every news network. Every observer. It read, "You are trespassing." Silence followed. Absolute silence. Then the VorKaal fleet opened fire. 3 seconds later, half the fleet disappeared. Not damaged. Not destroyed. Gone. Vanished. As though space itself had swallowed them. The surviving ships immediately retreated. Panic replaced confidence. Confusion replaced certainty. Across the galaxy, billions stared at their screens. Nobody understood what had happened. Not the Council. Not the VorKaal. Not even humanity. At least most of humanity. Because somewhere beneath New Horizon's surface, hidden deep below the colony, an old man quietly turned off a monitor. Then he sighed and made a phone call. "Well," he said, "they finally noticed us." For the first time in 6,000 years, the galaxy's deadliest predators felt something unfamiliar. Fear. And they were about to discover that humanity had been hiding far more than anyone realized. The galaxy exploded with questions. What happened to the VorKaal fleet? Where did the ships go? What weapon had humanity used? Military analysts examined every recording. Scientists reviewed every sensor log. Experts debated endlessly. Nobody found answers. Because the answer wasn't in the data. The answer was buried beneath New Horizon. 5 kilometers beneath it. Inside a facility that officially did not exist. The old man who made the phone call was named Arthur Hale. At least that was the name he currently used. His real age remained classified. His real job, even more so. To the public, Arthur was a retired engineer. To a small group of very important people, he was one of the directors. The directorate had existed for nearly 400 years. Most humans had never heard of it. Presidents didn't control it. Generals didn't command it. Governments didn't supervise it. The organization existed for one reason: preparing humanity for things nobody else knew existed. And the VorKaal weren't one of those things. They were much smaller, much less dangerous. Inside the Directorate Command Center, dozens of officers monitored incoming reports. Arthur studied a holographic display. Half the VorKaal fleet had vanished, exactly as expected. One younger officer looked nervous. "Do you think they'll understand?" Arthur laughed. "No." The officer frowned. "Why not?" Arthur pointed toward the display. "Because they're predators." The room remained silent. Arthur smiled. "Predators always make the same mistake." The young officer waited. Arthur continued. "They assume they're at the top of the food chain." Several people nodded. "Reasonable. Obvious." Then Arthur finished. "They never ask who built the food chain." The room became quiet. Because everyone working there knew the truth. Humanity wasn't hiding from the VorKaal. Humanity was hiding from something else. Something much older. Something much worse. 3 days after the incident, the VorKaal retaliated. Or at least they tried. A larger fleet entered human territory. much larger, thousands of warships, elite warriors, advanced weapons, the kind of force that usually ended wars before they started. Kartok himself led the expedition. He intended to make an example of humanity. The galaxy watched closely. Many expected a massacre. They were correct, just not the massacre they expected. The VorKaal fleet crossed into the New Horizons system at precisely 1417 local time. At 1418, every sensor aboard every ship stopped working. At 1419, communications failed. At 1420, navigation systems shut down. By 1421, panic had begun, because space itself seemed wrong. Stars moved. Distances shifted. Entire planets appeared where they shouldn't exist. Reality bent around them. Kartok stared at his command displays. Nothing made sense. His fleet remained intact, yet somehow they were no longer in the same formation. Ships drifted apart. Squadrons vanished from sensors. Entire task forces disappeared. One moment they existed. The next moment they didn't. No explosions. No battles. Just absence. Then a transmission appeared. Human. Calm. Almost polite. Supreme Predator Kartok. The ancient ruler growled. "Who is this?" A brief pause followed. Then the answer. Someone trying very hard not to solve this problem permanently. For the first time in centuries, Kartok felt uncertain. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was conducting its own investigation, and they were making progress. Unfortunately, an archaeological team discovered something hidden inside ancient records. References, mentions, fragments, scattered across thousands of years. The same symbol appeared repeatedly. The same organization. The same name. The Directorate. The oldest references predated modern humanity. By centuries, that should have been impossible. Yet there it was. Again and again. Watching. Waiting. Preparing. Council historians dug deeper. What they found disturbed them. Human history contained gaps. Not small ones, massive ones. Entire events seemed missing. Certain technological advances appeared too early. Certain disasters ended too neatly. Certain mysteries remained unresolved, almost as if someone had quietly intervened. Repeatedly, across centuries. Then came the breakthrough. A forgotten archive, recovered from an abandoned research station. Most of the files were corrupted. One survived. The recording showed a meeting, dated nearly 300 years before humanity discovered faster-than-light travel. Scientists filled the room, military officials, political leaders, all listening to a presentation. The speaker displayed an image. The council chamber fell silent, because everyone recognized it instantly. It was a Vor'Kaal ship. The recording was 3 centuries old. That should have been impossible. Humanity hadn't even left its own solar system yet. How could they possess images of an alien vessel? The answer arrived moments later, and it changed everything. The presenter pointed toward the image, then spoke 6 words, words that echoed throughout the council. They've returned earlier than predicted. Returned, not arrived. Returned. Panic spread immediately, because that single word implied something horrifying. Humanity knew about the Vor'Kaal long before FirstContact, long before the galaxy met humans, long before any official records existed, which raised an obvious question. How? The answer arrived from the Directorate itself. Arthur Hale activated a transmission. For the first time in history, the organization revealed its existence. Every major government, every council member, every military command received the same message. Arthur appeared on screen, calm as always, tired as always. The old man looked around. Then Sahil, "You deserve an explanation." The galaxy listened. Arthur displayed a star map, ancient, massive, unlike anything modern civilizations possessed. Thousands of worlds appeared, many unknown, many long dead. Then he highlighted Earth, a small blue point, insignificant, ordinary. Arthur smiled. Humanity was not the first civilization from Earth. Silence, absolute silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Nobody understood. Then Arthur added the sentence that shattered everything they thought they knew. Humanity is the second. Across the galaxy, billions stared at the screen, trying to comprehend what they had just heard. Because suddenly the vanished fleets, the hidden technology, the directorate, the impossible archives, everything made terrifying sense. And if humanity was the second civilization from Earth, what happened to the first? For several seconds, nobody in the galaxy moved. Nobody spoke. Nobody blinked. Arthur Hale's statement echoed through every command center, every government chamber, every military headquarters. Humanity is the second civilization from Earth. The implications were impossible. Earth was humanity's homeworld, its birthplace, its beginning. How could there have been another civilization before humanity? And if there was, what happened to it? Arthur seemed to anticipate the question. He activated another display. Ancient images appeared. Ruins, megastructures, fragments of impossible machines. Most looked alien. None looked human. At least not modern human. The old man folded his hands. Approximately 120,000 years ago, the room became silent. Earth hosted a civilization significantly more advanced than anything currently existing in the galaxy. Shock spread instantly. Even the VorKaal intelligence officers monitoring the broadcast looked stunned. The timeline alone was absurd. Most modern civilizations weren't even close to that old. Yet Earth had apparently hosted a technological empire before recorded history. Arthur continued. They called themselves the Aeternum. Ancient symbols appeared across the display: gigantic cities, orbital rings, planetary engineering projects, machines larger than mountains. The galaxy watched in disbelief. The Aeternum weren't merely advanced. They were terrifyingly advanced. Some of their technology exceeded anything currently known. Even council scientists struggled to understand what they were seeing. Then Arthur changed the image. The cities vanished. The machines disappeared. Only destruction remained. Burned continents, broken worlds, dead oceans. Silence filled the room, because everyone already knew what question came next. What happened to them? Arthur looked away briefly, then answered, "The Vor'Kaal." The reaction was immediate. Every eye turned toward the Vor'Kaal representatives. Every camera focused on them. Even Supreme Predator Kartok seemed confused, because he genuinely didn't know. Arthur displayed another archive, this one much older, recovered from beneath Antarctica. The footage showed ancient battlefields, entire fleets burning, planetary defenses collapsing, massive predatory warriors storming ruined cities. The resemblance was unmistakable. Not identical, but unmistakable. Ancien VorKaal. The galaxy fell silent. For thousands of years, the VorKaal believed themselves invincible. Ancien, unchallenged. Yet the evidence suggested something else. They weren't the first great predators. They were descendants. Descendants of conquerors who had nearly destroyed an entire civilization. Arthur nodded toward the image. Your ancestors won. A pause followed. They almost wiped Earth clean. The room remained silent. Then Arthur continued. Almost. That single word changed everything. Because humanity wasn't simply Earth's second civilization. Humanity was Earth's recovery. The survivors. The descendants. The second attempt. According to the archives, a small number of Aeternum survivors escaped extinction. Not through superior weapons. Not through military victory. Through patience. They understood they couldn't defeat the invaders. So they made another choice. They hid, deep underground, beneath oceans, inside mountains, across isolated regions of the planet. And they waited. Generations passed. Then centuries. Then millennia. Their civilization faded. Their technology vanished. Their knowledge fragmented. Eventually something remarkable happened. A new species emerged. Humanity. Arthur looked directly into the camera. Our ancestors chose not to rebuild the old civilization. The room listened carefully. They chose something harder. Another pause. They started over. The decision confused many alien observers. Why abandon advanced technology? Why abandon accumulated knowledge? Why begin again? Arthur answered before anyone could ask. Because the first civilization failed. Silence. They became powerful. Another pause. Not resilient. The Aeternum depended on technology. Humanity depended on adaptability. The difference mattered a lot. Over thousands of years, humanity evolved naturally, built naturally, struggled naturally. Wars, disasters, disease, conflict, discovery, failure, success. Everything happened without the protections that had weakened the first civilization. Humanity earned its growth. The hard way. The hard way. Earth's way. The VorKaal watched the revelation with growing unease. Because suddenly, humanity looked very different. They weren't an inexperienced young species. They were the descendants of survivors, the inheritors of a civilization that had already lost everything once, and survived anyway. Then Arthur revealed the final secret, the Directorate. The organization wasn't a government, wasn't a military, wasn't intelligence. It was a promise passed down across generations, a promise created by the final leaders of the Aeternum. Its mission was simple: observe, protect, prepare, wait. Wait for what? Arthur finally answered. The return of the predators. The room froze, because suddenly everyone understood. The Directorate hadn't been watching the VorKaal. The Directorate had been waiting for them. For centuries, Kartok's expression darkened. For the first time in his life, he felt something dangerously close to fear. Not because humanity was stronger, because humanity had expected him. His arrival wasn't a surprise. It was a scheduled event, something humanity had prepared for across generations. Then alarms erupted across multiple command centers. New sensor contacts, thousands of them, appearing throughout VorKaal territory. The galaxy turned toward the displays and froze. Gigantic structures were emerging from deep space. AncientTechnology, dormant structure, hidden structures, each one bearing symbols identical to those found in Aeternum archives. The old civilization wasn't entirely gone. Some of its defenses had survived, waiting, sleeping, watching. For over 100,000 years, Arthur looked at the sensor feeds, then quietly smiled. About time. The council stared. What are those? Arthur answered calmly. The contingency. Across VorKaal space, ancient defense platforms awakened. Planet-sized machines powered up. Weapons older than recorded history activated. The descendants of the galaxy's deadliest predators suddenly found themselves staring at something they had never encountered before. A predator older than they were. And, unlike the VorKaal, this predator remembered everything. The sensor reports kept arriving, one after another. Then hundreds, then thousands. Across VorKaal territory, ancient structures were awakening. Not ships, not stations, not fleets. Something far larger, something far older. Planet-sized defense platforms emerged from hidden locations throughout the galaxy. Some drifted out of dead star systems. Others rose from inside gas giants. Several emerged from regions of space long believed empty. All of them carried the same symbol, the symbol of the Aeternum. For 120,000 years, they had waited. Silent, dormant, watching, preparing, and now they were awake. Supreme Predator Kartok stared at the incoming data. His military advisor stood frozen. Every simulation produced the same result: total defeat. The VorKaal fleets that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia suddenly looked insignificant. The ancient defense network wasn't larger. It was operating on an entirely different scale. One platform possessed more firepower than multiple VorKaal sectors combined. And there were hundreds of them. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. For thousands of years, the VorKaal had been the ultimate predators. The apex species, the nightmare everyone feared. Now they were discovering a painful truth. There is always something higher on the food chain. Kartok demanded immediate military mobilization. Every fleet, every warship, every warrior. The response was unprecedented. Millions answered the call. Thousands of fleets assembled. The largest military force in modern galactic history prepared for war against machines built before recorded history. The outcome was predictable. The first battle lasted 43 seconds. A VorKaal attack fleet entered weapons range of an Aeternum platform. Thousands of warships opened fire simultaneously. Enough firepower to destroy planets. Enough firepower to erase civilizations. The ancient platform didn't even activate shields. The attacks simply vanished. Absorbed, redirected, ignored. Then the platform fired once. One shot, one pulse of pale blue light. The entire VorKaal fleet disappeared. Every ship, every weapon, every signal, gone. The battle was over before most observers realized it had begun. Panic spread through VorKaal territory. For the first time in 6,000 years, the predators experienced helplessness. Worlds that once celebrated conquest now feared extinction. Colonies prepared evacuation plans. Military commanders abandoned positions. Political leaders issued desperate appeals. The galaxy watched history reverse itself. The hunters had become prey. Meanwhile, humanity remained strangely calm because the Directorate understood something everyone else didn't. The Aeternum contingency wasn't designed to destroy the VorKaal. It was designed to judge them. Arthur Hale appeared before the Galactic Council one final time. The old man looked tired, older than ever, yet strangely peaceful. Speaker Varix addressed him directly. What happens now? Arthur studied the display. Ancient platforms, retreating VorKaal fleets, a terrified galaxy. Then he answered, "That depends." The council waited. Arthur continued, "On whether they've learned anything." At that exact moment, a transmission emerged from the largest Aeternum platform. The signal reached every known civilization. Every world, every ship, every government, an ancient artificial intelligence had awakened. Its voice sounded calm, cold, ancient beyond imagination. It delivered a simple statement: predator species identified. The galaxy held its breath. Threat assessment complete. Silence. Then came the sentence that terrified the VorKaal. Final judgment pending. For 3 days, nothing happened. No battles, no attacks, no invasion. The ancient machines simply observed, watching, evaluating, analyzing. The uncertainty became unbearable. Even the VorKaal began hoping for a fight. Anything was better than waiting. Then the judgment arrived. The ancient intelligence spoke once more. The entire galaxy listened. Species evaluation complete. Silence. VorKaal civilization demonstrates intelligence. A pause. Adaptability. Another pause. Survival capability. Hope briefly appeared among the predators. Then the final assessment arrived. Empathy insufficient. The hope vanished. Expansion behavior unsustainable. More silence. Predatory dominance model rejected. And finally, Apex status revoked. Across the galaxy, VorKaal military systems shut down. Not destroyed. Disabled. Every warship. Every orbital weapon. Every strategic platform. The Aeternum network simply turned them off. Instantly. Completely. Effortlessly. The predators could no longer threaten anyone. The age of fear ended in a single moment. No worlds were destroyed. No species exterminated. No genocide occurred. The Aeternum were wiser than that. Instead, they removed VorKaal's ability to dominate others. The punishment was elegant, merciful, permanent. Months later, a new era began. Trade routes reopened. Formerly occupied worlds regained independence. Species that had spent centuries living in fear finally experienced freedom. The Galactic Council underwent massive reforms. Human influence expanded rapidly, not because humanity demanded power, because everyone trusted them. One final meeting took place on Earth. Representatives from hundreds of civilizations gathered. Even Kartok attended. Older now, humbled, changed. The former ApexPredator approached Arthur Hale. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Kartok asked the question everyone wanted answered. "Why didn't you destroy us?" Arthur smiled. A small smile. The smile of someone who had spent a lifetime carrying difficult truths. Then he answered, "Because that's what you would have done." Silence followed. Kartok lowered his head. For perhaps the first time in his life, he understood. Years later, children across the galaxy studied the fall of the VorKaal. Most history books ended with the same lesson. not a lesson about power, or weapons, or technology. A lesson about survival. The VorKaal believed apex predators ruled forever. Humanity knew better, because Earth had taught them something different. On Earth, survival never belonged to the strongest. It belonged to those who adapted, those who learned, those who changed. And that was why the galaxy's deadliest predators lost. Not because humans were stronger, not because humans were smarter, but because humanity possessed the one trait every true apex species needed, the ability to become something new. As the centuries passed, the old saying spread from world to world. A warning, a lesson, a piece of wisdom earned through history. The Vor'Kaal thought they were untouchable.